So RICEF means those functionalities which are not already provided by SAP in the standard system, but when you work on the project, the customer may not be happy with the standard functionalities. They may ask you some additional functionalities which are not provided by SAP itself. Okay, and when you try to build or develop these functionalities, those are nothing but the RICEF objects. Okay, so when you're working on the SAP project, your manager, when you are working as a consultant, your manager will give you one of the responsibility to identify the RICEF objects which needs to be developed. Okay, so what does it mean? It means that your manager or project manager is asking you that apart from the standard functionality, what are the different additional functionalities customers are looking for, right? So still there is background noise. I'll just mute all of you as of now. I will allow you to speak once I complete the topic. Okay, so let's understand what exactly are the RICEF objects. So SAP WRICEF objects is you can see it is an acronym that stands for workflows. W stands for workflows, R stands for reports, I stands for interfaces, conversions, enhancements, and forms. Right. So these, whenever we want to develop something new, whenever we are not happy with the standard functionality and we want our uh, ABAP team to develop something for us, it has to be one of these 6 categories. Okay, so normally we don't develop anything apart from these 6 objects. Okay, so what are ISF objects? You can see these are the custom objects created in the ABAP workbench. Okay, so normally whenever we are talking about the custom objects, the entire SAP thing is developed in ABAP, right? All the standard functionalities, whatever are available in SAP in the background, the language, the coding language which is used is SAP ABAP. Now, whenever you want to build something new, whenever you want to change the existing functionality, whenever you want to like develop the new functionality, again, our ABAP consultants, they will be changing the code, they will be writing the code in the ABAP workbench in order to make it ready. Okay, so what exactly are the workflows? So workflows are the custom processes created to automate or streamline business process within SAP system. I'll just give you a simple example if you're finding it difficult. See, workflows means in a company, there are different hierarchies, right? Whenever you are working in any company, there is a manager, on top of him, there is a senior manager, on top of him is a vice president, on top of him is a COO, then CEO. So these are the different hierarchies that you got. So in the company, whenever you, if I give the example of FI, okay, and then I'll come to another example of logistics. So within FI, we already understood the maker checker concept. Okay, so there is a person who will be creating the accounting document without posting it. So they will park the accounting document, and then his manager will go and verify whether the document which is parked is correct. And if correct, he will convert the parked document to post document. So this is one kind of a workflow. Okay, if we activate the workflow in the system, what will happen is as soon as the maker creates an accounting document, as soon as the maker parks an accounting document, the manager will get a notification over an email, over a SMS, whatever you want. You can ask your web to develop that. Okay, and as a manager, he will be able to verify whether the document which is parked is correct or incorrect, and based on that, they can approve or reject that particular document. Right? Same way from the logistics point of view, from the SD point of view, we discuss credit management. So what happens is whenever a sales order is created, okay, for the medium risk customers, when you create a sales order, system will perform the credit check, and if the credit is not available for the customer, then what the system will do, system will credit block that particular customer. Okay, it will block the delivery of that particular customer. You will not be able to deliver the material to the customer till the time the responsible manager goes and removes that credit block. So this is again can be done through the workflow. Okay, so through workflow, what will happen is we can tell our ABAPer that as soon as the sales order is blocked for delivery, okay, because of the credit check, we want the system to automatically generate an email or any kind of notification which will go to the credit manager, and he has to either release the credit check or he has to reject the credit check. Okay, so that is one of the example of workflow from the SD point of view. Okay, so if there are workflows required, see by default there are no workflows. For example, maker checker, park and post document. So I have a transaction code access of FE50. I can park the document. My manager has a authorization of FB50, so he will be posting the document, but he will not come via the notification. Notification will not be raised by default. If you want that notification, if you want to have the system where as soon as the document is created, it is going as an email or any other kind of notification to the manager, and then he's taking the approval or rejection, in that case only we need to activate the workflows. Okay, second type of objects are reports, again very common. There are n number of reports already available in the system. But again, even I'll tell you that even though many reports are available, the reports which are required from the legal point of view, the reports which are required from the authorities point of view, those reports have a separate layout per country. Okay, so for example, in India, we want a GST report, and there is a proper layout in which we need to generate that report: purchase register, sales register, customer aging, vendor aging. So there are n number of reports which are required by the business in every country. Right now, if you are generating those reports from the standard SAP system, you may not be happy with the layout. You may not be happy with the columns that report is showing. Okay, and that is the reason customers comes to us and they say, no, we have seen the SAP standard report, but the report that we want is something more than that. Okay, or it has a different layout, or it has a different criteria. So based on that requirement, we need to go to ABAP and we need to tell them that the customer is looking for this particular report. Okay, where you will tell them what would be the columns which will be appearing in the report, how the report will pick the data. Okay, that is in the next slide. So in the next slide, we'll be talking about, as a functional consultant, what is your role when the RICEF objects are developed. Then you got interfaces. Okay, interfaces means whenever you are connecting your SAP system with other outside systems. Okay, you can see interfaces are the custom programs that allows data to be exchanged between the SAP system and external systems or applications. Okay, so let's take example. Very common integrations that we do. In India, okay, just an example, and it is applicable everywhere. So our SAP system is normally connected to the GST portals, so that the GST reports are created in SAP system and uploaded directly at the GST portal. Just one example. Another example which we have seen in case of FI, that whenever a payment is generated, automatic payment program is executed, the last step is printing the document and sending it to the bank portal. So what is happening? There is an interface between the SAP system and the bank portal. There is an integration or interface between our SAP system and the GST portal. There is an interface between some other system and SAP system, those kind of things whenever you want to develop. So depending upon the customer, what are the different systems with which they want to generate the interface, we have to identify the requirement and we have to give it to, again, this is not necessarily ABAP. Interfaces, although there is ABAP requirement, but normally these interfaces are also connected via PIPO module. There is a module in SAP called as PIPO. Okay, process integration and orchestration, process orchestration. These are the other modules in SAP which are responsible for the interfaces, again technical. Okay, then C stands for conversions. What are conversions? Conversions are custom programs used to convert data from one format to another format within SAP system. Okay, so if you have some raw data and you want to make it meaningful, you want to convert the existing data to some other form, then you use the conversion programs. Okay, one example can be when you are uploading the customer master data, supplier master data. Okay, so during the new implementation project, you need to perform a lot of data migration. So using those conversion programs, we can perform the data migration. Okay, we will see what is data migration in the coming slides. Then you got enhancements. E stands for enhancements. Enhancements are again the custom modifications made to existing SAP system functionality to meet specific business requirement. So you are changing the functionality itself. It is not like generating the new report. It is not like generating the new workflow. Okay, so for example, in SAP system, you are going to transaction code FB60, okay, or you are going to transaction code VA01. Now you might be able to see 100, 120 fields in that particular screen. Now, if you want to add new fields in the same screen, FB60 itself, in the VA01 itself, you're not generating a new report, you're not generating a new workflow. It is like changing the existing screen itself or changing the existing functionality itself, the way the system will behave. That is called as enhancement. Okay, so if you want to add new fields in VA01, in FB60, if you want to modify the existing fields, you want to delete some of the fields, or when you press on save button, instead of directly going to the table, it will go through some other level of approval. So that kind of thing is called as enhancement, which you are doing within the SAP standard screens. Finally, there are forms. Okay, so forms example, if I talk about FI, we discussed dunning. Okay, so what would be the content when the data will be sent from our end to the customer in the form of what would be the wordings written in those dunning forms. Okay, so those forms, as we know, SAP has already provided some standard dunning forms, but we need to create our own logo. We need to upload our own logo in that particular format. We need to change the language if required. We need to add some fields if required. So that is nothing but forms. Even from SD point of view, billing output determination. So once the billing output is determined, we need to send the billing document to the customer. Okay, we need to send the invoice to the customer, in short. Now what would be the content of that invoice? In the invoice, customer will say, I want to see my logo, I want to see this details. Okay, so that is something which by default SAP has provided the forms, but we don't see any of our own logo in those forms, and that is the reason customer will always come to you and they will say, we want to have a new form, the way how our invoice, the way how our dunning letter will look like. Right, so those are the forms. So these are the 6 categories in which all your custom developments are divided. Right, so W stands for workflows, R stands for report, I stands for interfaces, C stands for conversions, E stands for enhancement, and F stands for forms. Okay, the development of RICEF object is very common activity in SAP implementation projects, as it allows organizations to tailor the system to their specific business needs. Okay, so this is just for your information. It is not like in the first project itself you will get a lead role to monitor all the RICEF objects. See, whenever you start working in the project, initial few years you will be shadowing the senior consultants. Okay, so shadowing the senior consultant means what? There will be senior consultants who are actually responsible. They will take your help wherever required. For example, they will ask you to sit in the discussion related to workflow. So they are discussing with the customer, they are understanding the requirement, and then they are saying, okay, whatever you understood, create a document for that. Right? So that kind of create a MOM for that particular meeting, create a documentation for that. Right? These kind of things you will be involved during the initial phases of the project, initial career, when you are starting your career as a beginner. Okay, I think this is again similar. So workflow, report, interface, conversion, these are examples. I already gave you the examples in detail. We can ignore this, but I'll send you this slide so that you can go through it. Okay, now coming to what is the role of a functional consultant in RICEF objects. We understood workflows are developed by ABAP, reports are developed by ABAP, interfaces can be done by ABAP as well as PIPO, conversion again ABAP, enhancement again ABAP, form again ABAP. Then what is our role? As a functional consultant, what we will be doing in the RICEF development? So number one, requirement gathering. Okay, ABAP will do the development, but ABAP doesn't understand the functionality of SAP. ABAP is not a business person. He is not knowing what exactly is AR, what exactly is AP, what exactly is a sales order, what exactly is billing. All these things are not known to ABAP consultant. They don't understand the business language. They understand the technical language. So requirement gathering, whenever a report is required in FI, as a FI consultant, I need to understand the requirements from the customer. Right? If something is required in the SD module, as a SD consultant, I'll be responsible for gathering that particular requirement. Okay, once the requirement is understood, what you will do? Second step is functional specification, FSD. Okay, so there are n number of names which are given to this one. What do you mean by functional specification? Functional specification is just an English document in which whatever you understood from the customer, you are noting it down in the piece of paper for the document, so that just to make sure that whatever you understood has been documented and given to a ABAP team so that they can start developing that particular object. Okay, I think I got the example. Just give me a minute. Sample FSD. Okay, this is just one example of how the sample FS document looks like. Okay, for example, this is a report. This is a FSD which is created for sales order summary by region. So customer is asking you that I want to have a report in which region wise I can see how much sales is done, right? So just assume that this report doesn't exist in SAP standard system, and customer has given you that I want to see this report in this particular way. So you understand the requirement, you understand what is the report name. You will also have an overview of what exactly this report will show. So the sales order summary by region report will provide a summary of sales order by region. The report will display the total number of sales orders, the total sales amount, and the average sales amount of each region, right? Input requirements means what? So whenever you are going to generate any report, system will ask you, you want to generate this report for which sales order, for which sales organization, for which customer. Same way, whenever you are generating any financial report, you go to FBL1N, you go to FBL5N, you go to FBL3N. System is asking you which company code, which customer, whether open items or cleared items. So these are the selection criteria. These are the input requirements. So which fields you want the user to enter before he executes the report? That is called as input requirements. Okay, so what is the selection criteria? The report will allow the user to select a range of dates and specific sales organization. So user can generate this report by sales organization and he can enter the dates. I want to see only the report for last month. So I will enter the date. Okay, what are the data sources? The report will extract the data from sales order header and item tables. So some of the basic tables, as I told you, if you remember, that will help you a lot. But again, that is something which will come with experience. So the data will come from VBAK, VBAP. For example, from SAP FI point of view, most of the data is available in ACDoc A or BKPF. Okay, if it is a customer master related table, we understood KNA1, KNB1, KNVV. So ultimately, whenever you are generating the report, the data has to come from some of the tables. So that you will specify in your functional specification. Output requirements, how the output will be displayed of the report. The report will display the following fields in the tabular format. So it will, first column will be region, second column will be total number of sales orders, third column will be total sales amount, and fourth column will be average sales amount. What about the sorting? How the system will sort the data? The report will be sorting the data by region in ascending order. So this is just an example of how you can create a detailed functional specification. Okay, data transformation, how the system will calculate the sales amount. The report will calculate the total sales amount by summing the net value of all the sales orders. Okay, average sales amount, how the average will be calculated, again by calculating the average of all the total sales amounts. Any validation, okay, so again it is not necessary that every time you will enter the validation. So validation means when the user is selecting the sales organization, system should validate whether such sales organization exists or not. When you are entering the date availability, the system should verify whether these dates are valid or not. Okay, and finally, output format I already shown you. User training. So how are you going to planning? How are you planning to give the training to the end user? So the report will be made available to the end user via a custom menu in SAP system. What do you mean by custom menu? Custom menu is nothing but custom transaction. So we all have standard transactions VA01, FB60, FB70. Whenever you are creating any custom report, which is not there already in the SAP system, the transaction code should start with Y or Z, Y or Z, right? That is called as a custom transaction. Training material will be provided to the end user. Yes, once the report is available, it is not like you will just give this report to the end user. You will create a proper user manual, what to enter in the selection criteria, how to execute that report. That would be again our responsibility as a functional consultant. And sign off. Sign off means you will submit this document to the business. Okay, they will verify that whatever you have written in this document is matching their business requirements before the report is developed. And then they will do the sign off, which means they agree that whatever you have written in the functional specification is correct, and my ABAP team can start working on this report, development of this report. Right, so as a functional consultant, our responsibility is to understand the requirement properly, and then whatever requirement we understood, we need to write a functional specification document and give it to ABAP after it is signed off by the business. Then you have coordination with development team. So once you are given the FSD, it may happen that some of the things are not very clear in FSD. Your development team, whenever they are doing the development, they may come across some additional questions, or during the meantime when the development team is working on the report development, the business came and they have changed some requirement. So in this particular case, you have to be uh, tightly working with the development team. So you require a lot of coordination between the development team, right? Once the development is completed, you will do the testing. Okay, you will not immediately give it to the business. It is not like the report is developed and now you start testing it. Business will only test once you feel that the report is developed is correct. The report developed is showing the correct amounts. The report developed is showing the correct data. The report developed is ready to be given to the business. Okay, so you will perform the testing, and finally, as I told you, you will do the user training. So you will create some documents, training material, or maybe you will be conducting the online or live session to help them understand how this report will be executed.